What happens when a multimillionaire CEO grabs a mop and ends up face to face with a pregnant waitress crying in a supply closet? Vance had never stepped foot in the cafe on Folsom Street. It was one of 7 his late father left him small, cozy breakfast spots scattered across the city. Since inheriting the company 3 years ago, Noah had focused on expansion, branding, and numbers, the kind of stuff that looked good in boardrooms. But lately, customer reviews had dipped. A few complaints about long wait times and burnt coffee. Nothing huge, but enough to bother him. District manager says it's just staff turnover, his assistant had said, shrugging. It'll even out. Noah didn't like guessing. He wanted to see for himself. So he shaved the beard, dyed his hair darker, tossed on a thrift store hoodie, and applied for a part-time dishwasher gig through a staffing agency they used for temporary help. The name on his tag read Nate. No one at the cafe had ever met him personally. His father used to handle everything face to face, but Noah had grown the company too fast for that. Most employees didn't even know what he looked like. His first shift was a Saturday. The place was packed by 7 in the morning. "Hey, you Nate?" A man in his late 30s barked from behind the counter. "You're late. Grab that mop, front entrance is a mess." The man's name was Chad, the store manager. He had the kind of voice that carried through walls. Noah nodded and got to work, pushing the mop along sticky tiles near the entrance. His arms were already sore, but he didn't complain. Customers came in nonstop. Servers ran around with plates of pancakes and coffee. The kitchen was chaos. Steam, noise, grease. He stayed quiet, observing. A petite waitress with a ponytail and swollen ankles limped past him carrying 3 plates at once. She paused for a second, breathing heavy. Noah noticed her hand trembling on the tray. "You good?" he asked. She looked at him, startled, then forced a small smile. "Yeah. Just pregnancy stuff." She walked off before he could ask more. By late morning, Noah was behind the counter refilling napkins when Chad started in again. "Samira, let's go." Table 12's been sitting 10 minutes. The pregnant waitress Samira, he realized, was wiping down another table, her apron soaked through with sweat. She moved slower than the others, but she was working non-stop. Noah didn't see her take a break once. "I'm trying, Chad," she said, voice cracking. "I've been here since 5, I just need no excuses. You want fewer shifts, talk to someone who cares." She looked like she wanted to scream but didn't. Instead, she spun around, muttered, "bathroom," and disappeared into the back. Noah hesitated. The mop was still in his hands, but something tugged at him. He set it down and followed quietly past the kitchen, past the freezer, until he heard soft sobs behind the storage room door. He opened it gently. Samira sat on an overturned milk crate, head in her hands. "Hey," Noah said, stepping inside. "You okay?" She looked up in shock, eyes red and puffy. "What do you want?" "I just wanted to check on you." She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "I'm fine, it's nothing." "It doesn't look like nothing." She let out a bitter laugh. "I asked for fewer shifts this month. I'm 7 months pregnant. My doctor said I need to slow down, but every time I say something, Chad gives me more hours. Said if I can't handle the work, I should quit." Noah's jaw tightened. "Does anyone else know?" I tried telling the district manager. "Left 2 voicemails. No one called me back." She stood up quickly, wobbling a little. Noah instinctively reached out to steady her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I shouldn't be breaking down like this. I'm so tired." He stared at her for a moment, heart pounding. He had never felt so disconnected from something he was supposed to own. And now, watching one of his employees cry in a storage room, he realized he'd let things slide too far. Noah cleared his throat. "You shouldn't have to beg to be treated like a human." Samira blinked. "Why do you care?" "You're just the dishwasher." Noah looked away. "Not exactly." But he didn't reveal himself. Not yet. He walked back out, picked up his mop, and waited. He needed to see more, and Chad. Chad was going to have a very different kind of conversation soon. Noah arrived early the next morning before the open sign flipped and before the smell of bacon hit the air. He stepped through the back door in the alley behind the cafe, the one the kitchen crew used. A cook with a tired face and earbuds in gave him a nod, then went back to slicing onions. Everyone was quiet at that hour, moving on muscle memory. Noah grabbed an apron and started stacking clean plates from the drying rack. Chad wasn't in yet, neither was Samira. He took the chance to pay attention to the kitchen layout. The floor was warped near the prep station, and the walk-in fridge door stuck unless you yanked it sideways just right. There was a dent in the steel counter where someone had clearly dropped something heavy. It wasn't unsafe, but it wasn't how he'd want things running in a place carrying his father's name either. By 6, the other servers trickled in. One of them, a tall college kid named Marcus, kept yawning and tapping his watch. "Third shift this week I've had to cover last minute," Marcus said while tying his apron. "If I wanted to be this tired, I'd have gone into nursing." "Someone call out?" Noah asked, keeping it casual. "Yeah, Jenna. Probably couldn't deal with Chad breathing down her neck again." "She quit last night." Noah didn't respond. He was still scrubbing a tray when he heard the front door open. Samira walked in slowly, eyes focused straight ahead. She didn't smile or greet anyone, just hung up her jacket and got to work setting out silverware. A few minutes later, Chad blew through the back door, loud as ever. "All right, team, let's keep it tight today. Manager from the Pine Street location stopping by later. Corporate wants us to swap notes." He clapped twice as if they were a football team warming up. No one responded. Noah kept his head down, but his ears were wide open. By mid-morning, the café was buzzing. Customers filled every table, the espresso machine hissed non-stop, and the line stretched out the door. Noah worked the dish pit. Silverware, mugs, plates he cleaned fast, letting the noise of the kitchen drown out his thoughts. He caught pieces of conversation through the pass window. A couple of regulars complained about slow service. One woman asked why her order was missing avocado again. The kitchen was short-staffed, and it showed. Chad leaned against the counter near the ticket printer, sipping a latte someone else had made. "Hey, Marcus," he shouted. "You gonna run those coffees or you need me to hold your hand?" Marcus didn't answer. He was already halfway to the table with a tray. Noah watched it all unfold. Chad barked orders but never lifted a finger. He hadn't once helped clear a plate or refill water. When one of the younger servers dropped a glass, Chad rolled his eyes and muttered something under his breath. Noah didn't catch the words, but the look on the server's face said enough. Then, around 10:30, Samira dropped a fork. It clattered on the tile. She bent to pick it up and winced. She was moving slower than earlier, her hand resting on her side for a moment. She stood, straightened her posture, and walked the plate to a table without a word. Noah dried his hands and stepped out of the kitchen. "Hey, you all right?" he asked quietly when she passed by. She nodded but didn't stop walking. He followed her to the bus station near the back door, where she was quickly scraping plates into the bin. "You need water?" he asked. "I'm fine." "You don't look it." She turned, defensiveness flashing in her eyes. "If I sit down, I'll fall asleep." "I just need the shift to end." He glanced at the clock. She had 3 hours left. Back in the kitchen, he grabbed a clean glass, filled it with cold water, and brought it to her. She hesitated, took it. "Thanks." "You ever get that call back from the district manager?" "No," he nodded slowly. "Mind if I ask why you didn't just go on leave?" She looked at him like he'd just landed from another planet. "Because leave means no paycheck. I've got rent, medical bills, and I don't qualify for disability yet. I work or I fall behind. Pretty simple." Noah didn't ask more. He didn't have to. At noon, the café got slammed again. Noah went back to dishes. The line cook slipped on spilled oil, landed hard, and limped out holding his knee. Chad came in 5 minutes later, took one look, and told the rest of the kitchen to just hustle harder. Noah's stomach turned. He stepped out front again, scanning the floor. Samira was still on her feet. She moved slower now, shoulders tight, eyes glazed. She dropped a menu, then a pen. Her hands trembled when she picked them up, and Chad still hadn't lifted a finger. That's when it happened. A couple near the window flagged down Samira. She turned too quickly, lost her balance, and grabbed a chair to steady herself. The tray she was holding tipped. 2 mugs of coffee spilled across the table and onto the woman's purse. The woman shrieked, jumped to her feet. Her partner stood too, both shouting over each other. Chad stormed over, grabbed the tray from Samira's hand, and hissed through gritted teeth. "I should have known better than to leave you on the floor." The whole room went quiet. Samira froze, eyes wide. Her lips parted like she was about to say something but didn't. Noah stepped forward. He walked slowly, calmly, stopping just beside Chad. "You're done." Chad turned. "Excuse me?" Noah pulled off his apron. "You're not talking to her like that, not now, not ever again," Chad scoffed. "Who do you think you are?" Noah took a breath. "Noah Vance, I own this place." The silence snapped like a rubber band. Samira dropped the pen she'd been holding. Marcus dropped a glass. A couple of the cooks leaned out from the kitchen, mouths slightly open. "You're lying," Chad said, voice hollow. Noah pulled his wallet from his back pocket, flipped it open, and showed his ID. Then he turned to Samira. "You all right?" She nodded slowly, stunned. He faced Chad again. "Get out. You can't fire me, I can, and I just did." "You're done, effective immediately. Your last check will be mailed." Chad opened his mouth, but Noah stepped closer. "I watched you ignore safety issues, verbally abuse staff, and let a pregnant employee nearly collapse while you drank lattes and insulted everyone. You're finished here." Chad's face turned red, but he didn't argue anymore. He grabbed his coat from the hook, muttered something under his breath, and stormed out the front door. Noah turned to the stunned floor staff. "Everyone take 5. Go sit." "I'll cover the front for now." No one moved at first, unsure if it was real. "Go," he said again, softer this time. They scattered, finding chairs, stools, and empty booths. Noah picked up the coffee tray himself and walked toward the couple by the window. "I'm sorry about your purse," he said. "Coffee's on the house. Let me get you a voucher for your next visit too." The woman blinked. "Are you really the owner?" He nodded. "Yes, and I'm sorry you had to witness that." He walked back behind the counter and picked up the phone. "Call and support staff," he told the assistant manager on duty. "And tell payroll to process Chad's termination today." The manager on the other end hesitated. "But we're short." "Then I'll stay until close. We don't keep people like him on payroll, period." He hung up and looked around. Samira sat at a booth near the back, her hands resting on her belly. She didn't speak, just watched him. Noah nodded once, then grabbed a tray and headed back to the floor. There was still a lunch rush to get through, and he wasn't going anywhere. Noah stayed until the last customer left. Evening light filtered through the windows, catching the dust in the air as chairs scraped against tile, and employees moved with the kind of fatigue that came after running on empty for too long. He hadn't touched his phone all day. His assistant had left 6 voicemails, and his inbox was probably overflowing, but none of that mattered right now. Not while Samira sat in the break nook with her eyes closed, ankles swollen, and half a sandwich untouched in front of her. He stepped into the narrow office tucked behind the pantry. The assistant manager, a soft-spoken guy named Leo, looked up from the schedule taped to the wall. "Got a sec?" Noah asked. Leo nodded. "Yeah, you want to talk about everything?" Noah folded his arms. "I need straight answers." "How long's the turnover been this bad?" Leo scratched the back of his neck. "Honestly, since midwinter, it started with people quitting over short shifts. Then Chad brought in a couple of his own hires friends, mostly. They didn't last. Some didn't show up at all. The rest of us had to pick up the slack. Why didn't you escalate beyond him?" I tried, sent emails. Once I got a response from one of the regional support staff. They said they'd look into it. Nothing happened. Noah stared at the wall calendar. There were names scratched out, shifts reassigned, and blank spaces where coverage should have been. "Did Chad ever work the floor?" Leo hesitated. "Not unless someone from corporate called ahead. Otherwise, he stayed in the office or disappeared on supply runs for hours." Noah's jaw tensed. "And no one from upper management followed up on the complaints, not once. Everyone assumed the numbers were okay because sales stayed steady." Noah rubbed his temples. "I'm going to restructure this place from the top down, starting with regional oversight. Leo gave a tight nod. Honestly, it's overdue. They stepped out together. Most of the employees had already clocked out or were cleaning up the last of their stations. Samira was still at the break nook, now with her feet tucked up on a second chair. Her eyes were open but unfocused. Noah walked over, pulled up the stool across from her, and sat. "I owe you an apology," he said. Samira blinked slowly. "For what?" "For letting things get this bad. I built this company around my dad's name, but I haven't walked in his shoes for a single shift. I've been running it like a spreadsheet, not like a place people survive off of." She exhaled. "I didn't think anyone up there noticed what happens down here. That's the problem. I didn't." She looked down at her hands, rubbed her knuckles. "You know, when I first applied here, I thought it'd be like the last place I worked. Small, friendly, decent tips. But it got harder and harder. Hours kept changing. Chad cut my breaks, then added shifts I didn't ask for. I couldn't say no, or he'd guilt me into it. Did he ever threaten your job? Not directly. But he'd say things like, if you're not reliable, there's always someone else waiting for a paycheck." Noah's fingers curled around the edge of the table. "How long were you planning to keep pushing through like this?" She gave a tired shrug. "As long as I had to. I don't have a cushion. Rent's due next week and my husband's between jobs. It's just me right now." "I want to set things right," he said. "Not just for you, for everyone here." Samira didn't respond right away. When she finally looked up, her voice was quiet. "You're not the first person who said that, I know, but I'm the one who can actually do something about it." She studied him for a moment. "Then start by fixing the schedule. 2 people trying to run a packed floor isn't safe, not for us, not for the customers. I'll bring in temporary staff from the other locations. I'll cover shifts myself if I have to. You'll get reduced hours immediately, full pay. And you're getting maternity leave with full benefits starting next week. Retroactive from this pay period." Her eyes widened. "You can do that?" "I can do that." She swallowed hard. "Thank you." Noah stood. "Get some rest. I'll walk you to your car." She waved him off. "I took the bus." He paused. "You'll get a ride home. We'll call for one now." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it and nodded. Later, after she left, Noah locked up with Leo, then stayed behind to walk the floor one last time. The kitchen was still warm, the scent of eggs and syrup clinging to the air. A tray of silverware sat unwrapped near the register. He picked it up, finished rolling the napkins himself, then turned off the lights. The next morning, he called an emergency meeting at the company's downtown headquarters. Department heads, regional managers, and corporate staff filled the conference room. Most of them had never seen him this early, and certainly not in jeans and a faded t-shirt. "Sit," he said without preamble. The room quieted. Someone cleared their throat. No one spoke. "I was undercover at one of our locations for the past 2 days. Do you know what I saw?" A few exchanged glances. No one answered. "I saw employees breaking down from exhaustion. I saw unsafe kitchen floors. I saw a manager who verbally abused staff, neglected safety protocols, and ignored every basic principle of leadership we claim to stand for. And I saw every level of management above him fail to act." A woman from HR shifted in her seat. "We hadn't received any formal complaints that escalated to our department. That's not good enough. If someone at the store level asks for help and gets silence, that's a failure of process. If staff turnover spikes at one location and no one investigates, that's a data failure. If someone's working while 7 months pregnant and can't get their manager to approve reduced hours, that's an ethical failure." He leaned forward. "Starting today, we're implementing a direct reporting line from every store to my office. Anonymous if needed. Every manager will be retrained on employment law, ethics, and safety, and anyone who makes retaliation part of their culture is gone. No warnings, no second chances." A man from the regional team opened his mouth, but Noah cut him off. "I'm not interested in excuses. I'm interested in change." He stood. "We built this company on my father's values. He knew every cook's name, walked every floor. We lost that, and I'm not letting us carry his name unless we fix it." He walked out without waiting for questions. By noon, he was back at the cafe with 2 HR reps and a clipboard. He met with every employee one-on-one, no filters, just time to listen. Marcus was the first. He sat with his shoulders tense, eyes darting as if he wasn't sure this wasn't a trap. "You're not in trouble," Noah said. "I need the truth." Marcus took a breath. "We've been holding this place together with duct tape. Everyone's burned out. We cover for each other, but it's not enough. What would help right now? More bodies, less chaos. And someone who actually cares running the place. You'll have that." He met with the rest of the team over the next few hours. One server had been working double shifts to pay off student loans. Another had been denied time off for a funeral. A kitchen assistant had been clocking out early to avoid overtime, even though he kept working, because Chad told him to keep hours clean for payroll. Every story was a crack in the foundation, and now he was face to face with them all. By late afternoon, he brought the team into the dining area for a meeting. "I'm not here to make speeches," he said. "I'm here to listen, but I also want you to know what's already changing." He outlined the new policies. Additional staff were being brought in temporarily. Every employee would have access to a direct contact at the corporate office. Schedules would be restructured based on employee needs, not just customer volume. Anyone with medical concerns would get priority scheduling and guaranteed breaks. Leo stood beside him, clipboard in hand, ready to take feedback live. Noah looked around the room, then said one last thing before stepping back. "I won't fix everything overnight, but I promise you this: what happened here will never happen again." No one clapped, no one cheered. But for the first time, no one looked like they were holding their breath either, and that was enough. For now, the next 2 weeks were the hardest stretch Noah had worked since college. Each morning he arrived at the Folsom Street Café before the sun cracked the skyline, and each night he left long after the chairs were flipped and the last apron hung. He didn't just oversee the changes, he enforced them personally. The first morning after the staff meeting, half the crew walked in with visible skepticism. Samira arrived last, moving slow, a small medical boot now on her left foot. A doctor's note had confirmed a stress injury from prolonged standing. Noah had arranged for her to be on a reduced schedule with full pay, as promised, and today she was only there to train her temporary replacement. Noah stood behind the counter, drying a stack of mugs when she approached. He looked up just as she sat down on the stool across from him. "Got a minute?" she asked. He set the towel down and nodded. "You really brought in a temp for me," she said. "Two, actually. One for weekends, one for weekday mornings. You'll train both, then be off the floor by Friday." She didn't smile, but her shoulders eased. "I didn't think it would actually happen. You shouldn't have had to hope for it in the first place." Her eyes moved toward the dining area, where a young woman with short braids stood beside Marcus, learning how to input orders into the system. "She's sharp," Samira said. "Caught on faster than I expected. You're still the only one who knows the entire breakfast rush flow by heart." Samira leaned forward. "I've been thinking. After the baby comes, I won't be able to run plates or bus tables for a while, but I could train new hires. Help with onboarding. You need someone who knows the gaps." Noah didn't hesitate. "Write up a role, you'll start part-time remote, transition when you're ready," she blinked. "Seriously, you've earned more than just a paycheck." She nodded slowly, processing, then stood, adjusting her balance. "Okay. I'll get started." That afternoon, Noah sat with Leo in the back office, reviewing applications for a new general manager. They'd received over 40 since Chad's removal, but none felt right. Too corporate, too far removed from floor work. "We need someone who knows what it means to mop their own tile," Noah said. Leo tilted the screen toward him. "There's one from the East Bay store lead at a diner that closed last month. Managed a team of 20, says he hasn't missed a shift in 6 years. Noah scanned the resume. "Call him in." Tomorrow morning. The next day, they met the candidate, an older man named Ray, wiry build, thick hands, and a quiet presence that made people pay attention. In the interview, he didn't sell himself. He told stories about working through snowstorms, about picking up shifts for single parents, about firing a cook who pocketed tips from servers. When Leo asked how he handled conflict, Ray didn't blink. You handle it. You don't wait. You don't delegate it away. If someone's hurting the team, they're out. Same day. Noah offered him the job before the hour was up. Ray started the following Monday. On his first shift, he spent the entire breakfast rush running food and washing pans. No clipboard, no headset, just sleeves rolled up and eyes everywhere. By the end of the week, the entire vibe of the cafe had shifted. Customers were seated faster. Orders came out cleaner. The tension that had once lived in the corners of the break area was gone, but fixing the cafe wasn't just about people. The physical space needed attention too. Noah approved emergency maintenance to replace the buckled kitchen floor. During repairs, he moved the cafe to a half-capacity model, offering customers half-price breakfast and free coffee. It cost the business money, but it bought them breathing room. The walk-in fridge was replaced. The staff got new aprons and slip-resistant shoes, paid for by the company. Leo set up a rotating suggestion board by the time clock. Anyone could post ideas anonymously. 1 week later, 3 of those ideas had already been implemented. Noah didn't return to wearing suits. Not yet. He stayed in uniform, blending in, helping where needed. And people noticed. One Wednesday afternoon, a woman in a navy pantsuit came in and ordered a coffee to go. She glanced around, then approached the counter where Noah was restocking lids. "I'm from the licensing board," she said, flashing a badge. "We had anonymous complaints about safety conditions. I was expecting more chaos." Noah set the stack of lids down. "We had issues. We corrected them. You're welcome to tour the back." She raised an eyebrow. "You're the manager. I'm the owner." She frowned, then stepped aside and made a quick call. After hanging up, she nodded. "We'll close the complaint. No action necessary." After she left, Noah turned to Ray. "Even when you fix it, people remember what it was." Ray didn't look up from the inventory sheet. "That's how you know it matters." Later that evening, Noah pulled Marcus aside during cleanup. "You ever think about management?" he asked. Marcus blinked. "Me, you've been steady. You've stepped up. I'm opening a new location in the Mission this fall. I want you to come with me." Assistant manager. Marcus shook his head slowly. "I don't know anything about running a store. You'll learn. You've already got the hard part. People trust you." Marcus exhaled. "I'd need time to think." "Take it, but the offer's real." As the team locked up that night, Samira returned with a small envelope. "I wrote out the onboarding outline, and a list of equipment we're missing for training." He took the envelope. "You didn't have to rush this." "I wanted to. It feels good to build something instead of just surviving it." He nodded. "You'll have a desk at headquarters. We'll set up a remote login for now." She hesitated, then added, "I told my husband about everything, about what you did. He asked if you were planning to do this at the other stores." "I am. One location at a time. You'll need help, I know. That's why I'm not doing it alone." She gave a small nod and left without another word. The cafe closed on time that night. No one stayed late. No one cried in the supply closet. No one was shouted at across the floor. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't finished. But it was finally safe. Noah stood at the front entrance, looking out at the empty street. The mop leaned against the corner wall, unused today. He left it there as he flipped off the lights. Tomorrow, he'd visit the cafe on Valencia. He'd heard whispers, slow tickets, short temp coverage. He already knew what he had to do. But tonight, he walked out into the cool air, not as a CEO, not as a fixer. Just a man who finally saw his company for what it really was, and what it could be.